Hey there, Cheesemeisters. Welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I'm Jeff. You can't die. You know why? Because you're going to be a father. No, you are. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and I got a girlfriend. Nice. I forgot about that part until I watched the movie, and I about busted a gut and remembered why Michael Shannon is so great.
Michael Shannon is pretty great. That's the other. Okay. So this week, Cheesemeisters, we are doing the 2001 Michael Bay masterpiece, Pearl Harbor, starring Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, Kate Beckinsale, Cuba Gooding Jr., Alec Baldwin, and your boy Michael Shannon.
Hey.
We are doing this in connection with season 2, episode 14, The Next 50 Years, which you just listened to on Wednesday, if you're doing this the right way. And our spelling connection here is Alec Baldwin, who was in an episode of Hotel.
Nice.
So the subject matter connection should be obvious because Scott died and Ben Affleck died. No, wait. No, that's not what it is.
Except he didn't really die.
Scott died and Josh Hartnett died. No, that's not what it is.
Devastating.
Yeah, it's because there was a time capsule that they buried on the at good old West Beverly the night that Pearl Harbor was bombed, and so that's the previous 50 years, and then we're in the middle of the next 50 years. So that's our connection to the episode specifically. I had never seen this film prior to this experience. So this was fun. Because I was halfway out the door on this one before we even started it. I was like, do you really think we should do this one? Because I've heard this movie isn't any good. And you're like, no, we should 100% do it. I'm like, all right, we'll do it. It didn't take a whole lot of arm twisting, but there's a reason that this 23-year-old movie is a movie I've not seen. So
it was 23 years old. Jesus.
Well, here we are. Yeah.
Now I feel away.
So, as the primary proponent of watching this movie, what's your history with this movie? Like, when did you see it? Did you see it in theaters? Did you like it? Were you like, I hear this is the next Titanic? Like what was it that, like, what's your history with this movie?
My mom and I are suckers for romance history.
Okay.
Specifically World War II. Her more so than me because her father was a POW in World War II. So she feels a connection with her dad anytime we watch anything World War II. So it's kind of a special experience. Like, it's not just typical white people getting excited about, like, World War II bullshit. Like
that thing where, like, how often do guys think about ancient Rome? Like, that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
we have a bond over movies in general, but if it's got romance and World War II, then yeah, we're there. I forget how we found this movie. I know we didn't see it in theaters. But this is a really sad anecdote. I remember I had seen it before this viewing, but I remember the last time we watched it was the night my dad had his stroke. So I haven't seen it since then. I know it's not related. This movie is not to blame for my father's stroke. But
I mean, are we sure?
Yes, he watched a game that night. Listen, he left the room. Maybe it is to blame, because if we had watched something he wanted to watch, we might have seen symptoms sooner in the night.
Let's blame Michael Bay. I think let's sling some more shit on Michael Bay.
Yeah, so we watched that movie, and it's a long movie, except as I told you, AMC Plus only has the TV cut, and it's mostly inane shit. It's fine, but now there are things missing that are bothering me, and I can't remember if I can't trust my brain, and part of me is thinking I need to rewatch the second half of the film at least, which is the worst part of the film.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to dig into this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I do want to talk at some point about the missing 45 minutes of this Zabruder film. Or more accurately, like the missing 45 minutes of the Nixon tapes.
There we go.
Because I kind of need to know what's in those 45 minutes, even though I'm going to say for 100% certainty that 45 minutes being missing is not why this movie doesn't work.
No.
So
you're correct.
Before we watched this, you were like, I wonder if you're going to hate this more or Romeo and Juliet more. And this is much worse. But I didn't have the visceral anger feeling that I had at Romeo plus Juliet equals loud, because that thing was just an assault on my senses, and I just couldn't fucking get my head around it. I found this to be an intriguing little puzzle of what the fuck were they trying to do here, and why were they trying to do it? And I found that interesting. And I think I figured out how to fix this movie, and I want to tell you about it later. Okay. But I think we need to talk about, I want to know what kind of story this is. And here's why. Because this is not, without the second half of the movie, that you're like, it's the worst part of the movie. Without the second half of the movie, this movie never gets made. Because we, as American movie-going industry and audience, we don't make movies where we get the shit kicked out of us the end.
Yeah.
Right? It's always a heroic overcoming. You know, either and it could be a war movie, or it could be Rocky, right? Where, like, spoilers, Rocky loses at the end of the first movie.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter, because the story was him overcoming and stepping up and being in this moment and proving he belonged. That was the story. The emotional heft of the movie wasn't whether he won that fight or not, so he could lose it.
Okay.
Right? He could afford to lose that. So if you're going to tell a story about Pearl Harbor where we take the L hard from start to finish, there has to be something like the love story that takes you through it.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe that's why you have that love story part. But it's so poorly done, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Oh my God.
That it wouldn't have worked anyway if you had just told that story. So it has to be a heroism in the face of defeat story.
Okay.
Right? Because otherwise, what is this? Just like war porn? Like, there's no story. And there's no point to it. You know? We just can't... Now, or here's the other part. Is this a biopic of some sort? Like, I know the Cuba Gooding Jr. character is supposed to be based on a real thing, a real person, like a cook that saved him. Well, that would have been good. But I think that's the other thing that's so weird about this movie is that it's like they very heavily drop in real stuff. Like, they drop in the quote about waking the sleeping giant.
Yeah.
And they drop in the whole day that will live in infamy speech.
Mm-hmm.
and they drop in things that were clearly taken from historical record because they're just the way people would have said that kind of thing in real life. You know, you're like, I know that just like when you hear one of those things in a movie, you're like, oh, that's a real thing. They're quoting something there.
Or like
And
the
they do that.
telegram an hour after. That feels
Yes.
totally like that. That feels like that happened.
I'm sure that it did. I'm sure that it did. And so like, but the Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett thing, that can't be a real thing. So what the fuck is that?
The whole love triangle of it, like you could have. So there was a better love story in this, but they cut it out.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Or what was it? Who was it?
The guy who stutters.
Oh God. Okay.
Has a relationship with the beautiful golden-haired.
The one who dies.
Yep.
She's like, oh noes. Okay. Oh, okay.
So, and again, theirs was so background. Like, I think within 20 minutes, I was like, oh, they're cutting this out.
Yeah.
Which was disappointing because then, of course, when she dies, you see him kneeling at her coffin, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. We don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense that was in the movie, because otherwise I don't know who those characters are or what they're up to, other than like horny nurse. But the movie doesn't need it either.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
like the story they're telling doesn't require that subplot, which is why you can trim it out of the TV version.
But we could, if I had to give or take a romance in this. I mean, it would have made even less sense if you'd cut out the main one, but the main one is just so messy and doesn't. Not saying that shit didn't happen back then. It just feels too messy for an already about to be super messy time in America. Like, and while I love the idea of friends putting, you know, their beef aside for the country, for the great humanity, y'all ain't like that. That's not real.
But
although they are lifelong friends, so I don't know.
I don't bump on that part of it, but like if you want to do that, it doesn't have to be about a dame.
But there's nothing like a dame. Nothing in the world.
Well, that's true. No, I mean, agreed. Cosign. But the story doesn't need that. You know, if you wanted to do a thing where part of the underlying tension of the story is these two guys who are like brothers, who have their relationship has been torn apart, and they're brought back together under these incredibly trying circumstances. And in the face of defeat, then go on to do this heroic act, or even die in the middle of it, saving one another or something. Yeah. You know, you can tell just the Pearl Harbor attack story if the relationship is about those two guys and it's well told. You also, the movie can't look like a video game. And the attack scene, like the part of the attack where they're like jumping in a Jeep and driving across the island and trying to outrun a plane to get to another plane, like it felt too cartoonish to be an emotional heavy pivot point in the movie for those two characters. So it all feels surface level.
Yeah. Well, and I just had a thought too. I don't want to go in much deeper on that because that'll be part of my EST. Okay. But I realized as I watched this and was reminded just now, like, this is meant to be a date movie.
Right. Yeah, sure.
This is peak aughts date movie.
Right.
Like, you know, you got your romance for the women, you got your hardcore violence and war shit for the dudes, and then, you know, throw in a bit of history because none of you all are getting proper history teaching. But even this isn't proper history teaching, but it's palatable history teaching.
And it's like, and it's broad strokes accurate.
Yeah.
You know, like I think they go to great pains to set Pearl Harbor up the way that it was actually set up, and put the ships where they were in relation to one another and how tight they were. Right, and the airfield is here, and this airfield is here, and here's why this attack worked. Here's why they were there, and here's what happened on what day, and in the order that it happened, and how they overcame the shallow depth of the water and the nets that would stop the torpedoes through, you know, putting the wood block on the back of the torpedo. Like that stuff happened. That's how it really happened. So they were, and then like the Arizona, that really happened.
Yeah.
Like all those guys are still trapped in there to this day.
Yep.
That really happened. From what I understand, the Cuba Gooding Jr. character, who was a cook, like saved a guy, probably shot down a plane. I don't know, was heroic on the day. That really happened. But just a bunch of stuff that really happened isn't a movie. It can be a documentary, but it has to be like threaded in some way.
And this is the tough thing with, I love historical dramas, but you know, the way things happen, life is really slow.
Right.
You know, it feels fast, but when you start like, at one point, I may still try to do this, it's nuts, but I at one point thought I would love to write a miniseries about the women's suffrage movement. And I started doing research. Do you know how long that took?
Just the research?
No, like the actual like movement itself.
Oh, the movement itself.
The movement to us getting the vote. A century. Like it took us about a century because it was a bunch of off and on and like other shit happening. And I mean, like you would have to do so many montages and condense it. There's a reason why any movie about women's suffrage is always just, you know, oh, the hunger strike, when they got imprisoned. Same thing with like civil rights movies. They only take the stuff that is most cinematic.
Right.
And it's not even where it's not where all the work is being done. It's, you know, all of that is based on years of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And those kind of stories can be done really well and be really impactful if they're done right. Or they can be bogged down in minutia shit. Yeah. And it's 100%. Like, did you see Andor?
No, I did not.
Oh, Andor nails it. Andor is so good that it makes me mad at all of the other Star Wars stuff for not being as good as Andor.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets down into the nuts and bolts. And what it's telling an on-the-ground story of how you push people to the point of rebellion. And it gets down for like a whole episode or two, Andor ends up working like as slave labor for the Empire, doing something rote and repetitive over and over again. And it's not until he's been doing it for like an episode and a half that you're like, I think they're putting out parts for the Death Star.
Oh, fuck.
And it's parts, like pieces that are this big.
Yeah.
And it's like, they have to make 1 billion of these or whatever, you know, in order to make a machine that big, they have to make all of these little parts. And how do you control that labor force? And how do you get that labor force? And what happens when that labor force rebels? And like, so you can do that suffrage movement story, and you can do this piece of it, and then this piece of it. Yeah. And then 60 years later, this piece of it. And you can fucking, what's that show, Outlander? You know.
Oh,
You can bop back and forth in time if you want to, however you want to do it. But
No, that is not the time travel show that I wanted it to be. Don't even get it started.
I don't know, there's boobies in that show, so thumbs up for that.
Okay, but they're mostly like in a non-consensual or in an unconsensual context, and I don't like it. I mean, in the first season alone, see, now you got me going. Like, how many times they ripped off her bodice, and not in the way that I wanted, not in the way that she wanted. I was just like,
here's how you can make that not matter. Only watch that show while you're walking through the room to do other stuff.
I was gonna say, turn the sound off.
I wasn't watching the show. Laura's watching it, but I was like, "Oh, the boobs are on." You know, like there's sort of my level of involvement with it.
Lovely. She's lovely.
She is. So, I'm not saying you have to do it like the Outlander program, but
yeah, I don't know if there's bodice ripping in the suffrage movement.
Those ladies all had bodices. What are you talking about?
They were moving from bodice life to chemise life. So if anything, we'll just start we'll do a burning bodices scene, you know?
There you go. So, but that is a triumph over adversity story.
Yeah.
Like, it's an epic one over the course of a long, long time. But that's the kind of story we tell in America.
Yeah.
We tell stories where we're the heroes. Even if we are flawed, we're the heroes. Even if you could watch the first half of this movie and go, well, we were real fucking stupid, weren't we? Like
you should listen to Dan Aykroyd.
Well, I mean, we should always listen to Ray Stantz. I mean, come on. It's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I would have listened to
you about him showing up, but it's fine.
You know, the thing is with Dan Aykroyd is he shows up in movies like this, in this way, for like his entire career.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Dan Aykroyd's awesome and really funny, and then he'll be like, he'll have like a 4-scene part in a real heavy drama. And it'd be good.
Like, I love the moment he went, "No, sir, that's your job."
Right. Yeah.
I present the facts and what I think is happening. You decide what to do with it.
Yeah. You want to know how to fix this movie?
How?
I fixed it. Watch this.
Oh, God.
You get rid of the love story.
Okay.
Okay. And you can keep it in some capacity, but here's what you need to do.
Sure.
This movie has a really big third act problem. Like, the movie has to end with the Doolittle raid, because that's the act of heroism that is us overcoming the horrible thing that happened at the beginning of the movie. So you have to end there. But it has no weight because of, if you got a third act problem, you got a first act problem. Yeah. Right? And this has a first act problem in that it spends the entire time on a love story that is not consequential. And then it fake ass kills the main character.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what you do. You take everything that you need to learn about these two guys. You can have her involved too. I don't care how you want to work this relationship.
Sure.
You establish their relationship and that they are in conflict with one another. You establish Cuba Gooding Jr. as the cook on that ship. You establish the nurses if you want to tell that story.
Yeah.
Right? As people involved in this day. And you establish the inside of the Arizona, because you have to have like a personal connection when that happens. Mm-hmm. You do that in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then the entire first act is the attack.
Yeah.
It starts 10 minutes in and it goes to the end of Act 1. At the end of Act 1, our cat is in the tree. We're up it. Act 2 is getting all of these traumatized people together, mm-hmm. putting together the Doolittle raid, and training it.
Okay.
Show the full montage. Do the whole thing. Do the, I'm still mad at you for the shit that happened before, the attack. They're at odds with one another and they have to come together. And Act 3 is the Doolittle raid. and it is the culmination of this whole big arc, this whole big story of you can kick us, but you can't keep us down.
I'm going to quote from a previous episode and say, and throw this back at you. Shame on you for writing a better film.
No, I know it's terrible because I got to I was like, oh well, I fixed this movie in 2 minutes. I know exactly what they should have fucking done, and it would have made so much more sense.
I forgot how much of the movie was spent before Pearl Harbor. I was like, oh, this is a waste of time. Like, you know, the whole him going over and like, well, I wonder where the U.S. is going to join this war. Hopefully we never do. All the Americans are as gung-ho as you are.
Right.
Wrong actor. Who cares right now?
It doesn't matter. And the whore nurses at the beginning, where it's just like.
But here, okay, so I'm going to defend these nurses because, listen.
I'm not mad at the nurses. I'm mad at what the fuck of it all. Well, but go ahead.
That's Michael Bay for you. I'm totally going to blame him, because it makes total sense that, you know, like, oh my God, we have a chance at a job. We don't have to make marriage our first priority. I can get out of this small town. I mean, I forget her name, but the golden-haired one who dies, you know, she lies about her age. To go do this.
Right.
You know? And like, there's a beautiful story there. And again, a lot of them, I mean, and Jennifer Garner is wasted on this role, but again, I don't know how much she had gotten to do at this point. But yeah, like, there was so much more there, and I feel like you don't really get to value them until the attack.
Right.
And then you see, like, oh shit, they are good at their job. They're not just, you know, wanting to wear
crazy.
And yeah, exactly. And it's such a disservice to, you know, women who were nurses at that time.
Right. That's why I hate it. I hate it because it's like their personality trait is boy crazy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't show that they're skilled at their job, or it doesn't show that they want to do this for whatever, like, noble reasons, or just because they want to get out of their small town or whatever. They just want to do it because boys. And that, like, it's real stupid, and it doesn't have anything to do with the story they're trying to tell. So it's totally extraneous, and none of it makes any sense. But do you want to have some adventures and intimacy?
I do. Yeah, I liked the intimacy in this movie, and I don't know, like, so that was another thing, going back to, like, my history with the film, because I remember loving her love scene, or the love scene between her and Josh Hartnett, because I think the music is gorgeous, and, like, teenage me was caught up in it, even though adult me was thinking, that looks really uncomfortable. I bet those parachutes aren't comfy at all. How is this working? But
you know what I thought, and what I said to Laura? I said, what if one of our airmen died because they were fucking in their parachutes?
And she responded, how?
I mean, she knew the joke I was making.
I know. But no, I actually liked the intimacy in this. There, you know, it was a lot of old age Hollywood. There was a lot of old golden age of Hollywood to it. The, you know, long looks, and the coy banter, and, you know, I mean, unfortunately, you have the trope of, like, the woman playing hard to get and the man still pursuing her, because the whole time, like, when Ben Affleck is pursuing Kate Beckinsale's character, she's like, no, I'm doing my job. And like, she lets him through when he either can't read or doesn't have great eyesight I think it's just he can't read. Some moments that I thought were really great, especially were like when she is whispering in his ear, like right before she gives him the shot. Like
Right.
there was a lot of comedic intimacy in this, which I like. I guess it kind of lulls us into a false sense of security, even though we're at a movie called Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Because at some point the jokes are going to be gone. There's kind of like an awkward rom-com element in the very beginning that is so strange. And I don't know if that's just Michael Bay being uncomfortable with romance, and he has to make it a joke, but I'll go with it. It didn't bother me. But yeah, no, adult me was still, I still have questions about parachute sex, but
well, I mean, here's what I suggest. Win a radio contest where the prize is jumping out of an airplane.
No.
And then fight with your best friend over the love of the skydiving instructor. And then tumble out of the plane with your best friend while listening to Wicked Game.
Oh my God. Okay.
I think that will get everything you need to know. About parachute sex.
Along the line, speaking of that relationship, because so her and Ben Affleck have a scene where, they go into the lobby of hotel. It's the night before he's about to ship out. And they have this moment of like, do we, don't we? And I remembered it as her saying no.
Oh, but it
was actually him, and I thought that was interesting. So, and then, he's gone, and I think it's totally natural that her and the best friend found each other. I just wish that some of what they cut out was just a little bit more of their budding relationship, of them finding each other. Again, it wasn't going to be much more developed with those few snippets. And that's where, if you're going to go with that, develop it more, like, or make it be what you seem to think it is, Michael Bay, which is just they both missed someone and they were finding solace in each other, which that's totally fine.
Right. That's a story.
That's a story. That's a perfectly fine story. So no problems with the intimacy, more just a problem with some of the story around it.
Yeah. I'm glad that they didn't cock it all up. Because I'll say this, as we wander into Needle Drop Forest, I miss you more than Michael Bay missed the mark when he made Pearl Harbor. I miss you more than that movie missed the point, and that's a lot, girl. And now you've gone away, and all I'm trying to say is Pearl Harbor sucked, and I miss you. I need you like Ben Affleck needs acting school. He was terrible in that film. I need you like Cuba Gooding Jr. needed a bigger part. He's way better than Ben Affleck. And now, all I can think about is your smile and that shitty movie too. Pearl Harbor sucked, and I miss you. Oh. Why does Michael Bay get to keep making movies? I guess Pearl Harbor sucked just a little bit more than I miss you. Those are the wonderful lyrics to Pearl Harbor from the movie Team America World Police. And that is the only song that matters when it comes to Pearl Harbor.
I am like, you really had to hate that movie. And maybe there was a lot of hate around the movie, and I just don't remember because I would have been 14 when this came out.
Right. I think it's so that the whole idea of I miss you almost as much as Michael Bay missed the point. Like,
Yeah, because it just feels like I don't even know how he came up with it. It just feels like he wanted to recreate something horrible that
yeah,
happened in America.
he likes big action sequences.
Yeah. Well, and
You know,
the fact that this came out, I can't believe this was pre 9/11, but like
it was, and
that's even more haunting.
yeah, I mean that was something that's a what else for me.
Okay.
That whole 90210 fuck. That whole 9/11 thing. Like I'm watching this movie and I'd never seen it before and I don't know what's going to happen in this movie other than Pearl Harbor's going to get attacked. I don't know any of the stuff after that. Um so I'm watching it and there's the Dan Aykroyd character
Hmm.
who's warning them against an imminent attack. And because of 9/11, I learned what a presidential daily briefing is.
Hmm.
And I know that there was a presidential daily briefing spring of 2001 entitled Bin Laden Determined to Strike US. Like
Mm.
there were people reading the intelligence and warning about an attack being imminent.
Yeah.
In the movie, in real life, on 9/11, 6 months later, roughly the same amount of people died. Both of them were air attacks. Like watching Pearl Harbor and knowing that in the real world 6 months later, 6 months later, same amount in March, I think. Um, we're living the same thing again. You know, it's different. It's a different target. It's other side of the country. It's a different enemy striking at us, but it is a sneak attack using airplanes that kills about 3,000 people that we probably could have prevented if only the right people listened to the right people.
Yeah.
And so those parallels in this were very strong in the first half of the movie to me. Um, and just eerie, like they weren't trying to do that, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, and before, I thought this had come out after,
Huh.
because I just didn't look it up. And, I was totally reading into the broiness of it and the oh, yeah, I said
Too.
bros. It's upsetting. Well, I mean, I wrote down this line. It's a stupid line, but I'm going to say it. I think World War II just started. Has got to be peak American arrogance right there.
It's real stupid.
It was real stupid. And granted, I will give them the benefit of not the actors or the writers. I will give people from that time the benefit of the doubt, thinking that, oh, well, I don't know that World War II has started. That all of that is happening just in Europe. It's fine.
Right.
But or they had no idea of, again, news didn't travel then like it is now. But I heard that line and I went, oh my God.
I mean, so I have two thoughts. One is begun this Clone War has, but also because that's a thing that Yoda says in one of the Star Wars movies. But also, calling it World War II is a branding exercise. It wasn't called that yet. It wasn't like there was World War One just waiting for a sequel. Like they called it the Great War or the War to End All Wars. It wasn't like it's the Great War Part 2, everybody. Like they didn't, it wasn't branded World War II until later.
Yeah.
So someone saying it in the moment is anachronistic and stupid. So yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other what else's for me we've talked about a little bit, which is 45 minutes of what did I miss? Uh, and I'm right. Like that 45 minutes would not have fixed the underlying problem of the movie, which is the entire first act should have been the attack, the second act should have been the preparation, and the third act should have been the Doolittle raid. That would have fixed the movie. 45 extra minutes of the stuttering guy and the pretty blonde girl wouldn't have done anything.
Well, and okay, so I've mentioned how a lot of what was cut out was romantic stuff, both with that couple, some with Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale, because we don't care about their character names. I'm sorry, we don't.
Rafe and something in Nursey.
Oh.
Fly guy and Nursey.
Oh, it's terrible. Hello, nurse.
Hello, nurse. No, wait. He's Splashdown. She's Nursey, and Josh Hartnett is Fly Guy.
Fly Guy, I like it.
So Nursey was with Splashdown, and then she was with Fly Guy, and then she was with Splashdown again.
Okay, Josh Hartnett's character. There was stuff cut out in the beginning that established that his father was abusive, hence why he kind of looked to Rafe as Flashy, as oh man, there's totally a splash squeal moment in this, but it got cut out, and now I'm really
That's sad for me.
Damn it.
You know I love a good wee splash.
I know. It's your favorite thing.
On the list anyway.
I really when I would rewatch this, and yes, I rewatched it for the history, nothing else.
Sure.
I wouldn't watch the second half because I found the second half to be more depressing than the first, which I don't know what that says about me, but here we are. But I think there was a lot from the Doolittle raid that they cut out. Like
probably
not even so much the training, but when they land and when they're in enemy territory. Like I'm pretty sure Josh Hartnett's character gets fucked up. Like it's not, he doesn't just die from landing. Like
gotcha.
I feel like I'm crazy now because AMC had to post their stupid TV version. I'm like, well, great. I don't know if this is real, and I don't want. I mean, my mom has the DVD somewhere. I can just watch it when I go home. But why would I tarnish my visit home? Actually, no, she'll love it. Anyway, so there's definitely more stuff with the Doolittle raid and especially when it's bad. Apparently, I was trying to read up on what was cut from it, but I could only find out stuff that's put in like the DVD extras.
Oh,
it was
sure.
apparently shot to be a lot gorier, which I'm like, well, then he really did miss the fucking point of Pearl Harbor if he just wanted to make it a gore fest.
Yeah. So you're saying you missed that 45 minutes trimmed out of the movie, but not as much as Michael Bay missed the point when he made the movie Pearl Harbor. All I'm saying is Pearl Harbor sucked, and I wanted 45 more minutes of it. I didn't, by the way. I didn't miss that 45 minutes.
I think that helped us. Because I was really worried. I was really expecting to get messages from you like, oh my God.
Full rage. No, mostly I was like, I was just trying to figure out why. Like, why is any of this the way that it is? And I did figure out how to fix it, but I didn't quite figure out why it ended up being what it did. And I don't know. It's a mess.
We gave a history movie to someone who doesn't appear to care about history.
I mean, maybe. Yeah.
Like, if we get a 9/11 movie from him, I don't recommend anyone go see it.
No, I don't recommend going to see the Transformers movie by him.
No one does.
I mean, I think you lose a lot of the nuance of transforming in that movie. I will tell you, though, I do think you miss a lot. Like, I grew up with Transformers. Like, I had Transformer toys. Like, my Optimus Prime was super cool. Still have it, I think, at my mom's house. I loved the cartoon. that Transformers cartoon movie is bonkers. Like, there is a full-on robot dance party to Weird Al's song Dare to Be Stupid in the middle of this movie.
Oh man.
It's weird.
Certain someone knows about that.
I don't know, but he should. It's real weird.
Well, it's
and not only right, but like not only is there a robot dance party, but Optimus Prime dies in the movie, and it's really yes, no, it is heartbreaking when you're 10.
Oh.
It is like what the actual. I can still picture Optimus Prime's death. It's wild shit. So I like the Transformers, but then I saw the Michael Bay movie, and I couldn't tell what was happening because everything was chrome and silver with like a little splash of red or a little bit of yellow, and I'm like, I don't know what robot's fighting what robot. None of this makes any sense to me. It's a mess.
Pretty sure I went to see. I couldn't tell you if it was the first or the second one. I went with friends. And I have all I remember is Megan Fox Megan Fox running. That's all.
Thumbs up for that.
Yeah, thumbs up for her. I won't say always, but many times, yes. She says some crazy shit, but all celebrities do. Yeah, I don't remember anything else because I did not care. And clearly I had the money to just throw around and go see movies that I didn't give a shit about. Miss those. Right. Now I gotta think about investing when I go to a movie.
That's true. Yeah, is this worth my time and money investment? Transformers is not. It's not good.
That's why. Listen, he wanted to go see Madam Web, and I said, "You want to spend 25 of our hard-earned dollars on a movie you know is terrible?"
Right. Yeah.
We finally watched it for free last night.
Yeah, there you go. As bad as everyone says.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, the villain is. The story is not great. Like everyone makes it sound like it's the fault of the women, or just like a girl movie problem, but it's not. The villain is terrible, like utter shite, and then the writing is not great.
Yeah, I've heard that it's a mess all the way through, and it doesn't have anything to do with women. It's just a mess.
Yeah, it's just a mess. Like I sat cross stitching the whole time while watching it, and I think I got everything I needed.
Good.
I'm still glad I watched it. Now I want to read about Madam Web because I'm like, oh, it ended at the most interesting part.
That's also what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It ends right before everybody gets superpowers or something. I was like, oh, well, that was fun. It was weird.
What?
Yep. So, speaking of endings, I called the ending of this movie.
That you die and.
So I looked at there's the Kate Beckinsale, Ben Affleck scene, the Nursey and Splashdown scene, where she tells him, she says, "Splashdown, listen here, I can't be with you because Flyboy got me in a family way."
That's exactly.
She said, "But don't you tell him because I need him focused on the mission at hand and not on his little lady back home with a bun in the oven." And
I knew you'd predict it.
And so I turned to Laura and I said, I really hope that the way this movie ends is that Flyboy dies and Splashdown has to come back and raise the baby and fuck the nurse.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I hope that that's the way this movie ends because it's the laziest possible way they could end this movie.
It's the best of both worlds for Kate Beckinsale because teenage me couldn't decide between the two. It was a weird time.
Sure.
I could decide.
When you're equally attracted to Splashdown and Flyboy, it's hard to. I don't know.
I don't know. But good for you. Did you predict the child's name?
I don't even remember the child's name. Did they tell me? Maybe that got cut out. I don't.
Danny. It's the guy's name, which I now just remembered because I remembered the son instead of Josh Hartnett. Yeah, he goes.
Well, of course it is. Sure it is.
Like, it's laughable, but I'm also touched. Like, I don't understand film. Screw you, Hollywood. You make me feel things over stupidity. Stupidity.
Here's what I liked. I was reading the quotes, to try to figure out what my thing was going to be at the beginning of this movie, and then I realized it had to be that death scene. But it had to be it had to be that death scene because when I read it in the Jimmy Fallon, Rachel Dratch Boston accent, like the Ben Affleck cartoony Boston accent. Because here's what happened in my head when I read that. You know why? Because you're going to be a father. And then I heard, no, you are.
My God.
Like in my head, there was just a fart in between those two sentences. So that when he's like, no, you are, like, it's like, Jimmy Fallon like doing that, and then they both laugh, and then he dies. Like that's now how I want that scene to be, and it has to have that Boston accent to it, or it doesn't work. No, you are. Oh, Danny! Talk about getting strafed by friendly fire.
Oh my God.
It was a real sneak attack.
Gross. That's what kept me away. Oh my God. Because the whole time I'm watching that too, I'm like, where did those other soldiers go that were shooting them just minutes ago? Where did they go?
Yep. I one more thing to say. Oh, I think you woke the sleeping giant.
Christ.
I got nothing but fart jokes for the end of this movie.
Oh my God.
No, you are.
I hate fart jokes.
It doesn't matter when they're right. They're right. And at the end of the movie,
I know.
it's the appropriate place for that, and it would have made it so much better. And even without the farts, if it was just the Boston accent, it really would have worked.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a father. No, you are. It's too much fun for me. No, you are is almost now Pievius Mian is Miani for me.
Oh,
it's
man.
Almost that much fun.
Someday we need to go back and revisit our favorite dialects.
Yeah. And this one isn't even in the movie. It's just I just imprinted it on the movie.
That's fine.
Now I want it to be there. All right. So what is this the EST of for you?
This is the broest movie.
Yeah.
This is the broest historical film. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
I can't even reference specifically. It's just, it felt so bro-y from the get-go. Yeah.
I did sort of want a homoerotic volleyball scene. I think that would have been a nice addition.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you got pilots
for a homoerotic
volleyball scene, you gotta have that. I mean, it worked for Goose and Mav, and Iceman, and Viper.
Talk about a wingman I will never get over.
No, it's very sad. For me, I think this is the most jumbled war movie. I mean, it's a mess of storylines and intentions and execution and weight. So much of the weight of this movie is like a 45-minute attack on Pearl Harbor in like an hour to an hour and a half into the movie. Like, it's the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And again, that either has to be the inciting incident or the conclusion of the movie. It can't be like a thing that happened in the middle. And then there's a love story, and then there's Splashdown, and then there's not, is he a ghost? No, he's alive. and then Flyboy, and then Michael Shannon, and the stuttering guy, and the pretty blonde girl, and Kate Beckinsale, who I follow on Instagram also for historical reasons. I want to learn about history by
Sure. You
Kate
want to learn
Beckinsale.
about how to be a vampire hunter.
Yeah. I like Kate Beckinsale, by the way. I like across the board, I'm just kind of a fan. This movie's a hot mess.
Or anything else, and that's very disappointing because I probably haven't given her like, I don't know. I need to see more of her. I don't know.
Yeah, I like her. But not as much as I don't like this movie.
Forget, is she British?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Because I know I heard her talk once, and I was like, "Oh, you're not from here."
Where do you get off not being from here?
And well, some Americans get very mad about all the British people playing Americans lately, and I'm like,
Yeah,
potato.
it's because they feel fooled. You tricked me.
That's acting.
Yeah, you tricked me, you red coat. You Benedict Arnold of the accent.
Speaking of accents, I like to think about if I ever, I don't know, if I ever or someone ever did a film about Louisville, like, in order for it to be accurate, you've got to have a multitude of accents. And it's going to confuse the hell out of audience members. Like, I know the producers would be like, Leslie, you can't have this many dialects. And I'm like, fuck you. Yes, I can.
Right.
From there.
My grandma's house? Yes, you can.
Listen, Walter thinks my mom sounds way Southern. And I'm like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
Well, he has met grandma, but still.
She is very Southern. Much more. And I have almost no accent.
I had to force mine out.
I had to unlearn nines and fives.
See, my problem was I dropped G's at the end of, and like I didn't know I had an accent until I did Annie, and Mom heard me singing one day and went, "Huh, you sound a little Southern there, honey," and the fear shook it out. And now only alcohol brings it back. Or
it comes back when I want it to.
It comes back when I say Louisville.
Well, I mean, you just have to say it that way. That's how it's pronounced.
I mean, that's what I tell people, but then they're like, what?
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. I'm like, right, I know, but it's what it is.
The New Yorkers are like, what?
And then they're like, no, you are.
What are you talking about?
I turned Pearl Harbor into a fart joke episode. Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. Just the movie, not...
Right. The bubbles in the water in Pearl Harbor were not because everyone was farting. I don't care what you heard.
Okay, I forgot this in the what else, but you know what I was distracted by for most of the movie? The dog.
Oh, yeah?
I completely forgot about the dog. And then when he swam up to the guy at the end of the attack, I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, you can't kill Baxter. It doesn't work. Oh, Baxter, you are my little gentleman. No, I'm not angry. I'm impressed. Well, I think it's clear that once again, we have proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling, including how much I miss you, which is not as much as Pearl Harbor sucks.
Thank you for watching.
So, I enjoyed all of it. It is not good, but I enjoyed it. And I'm not one who hate watches movies, but I enjoyed the experience of watching this thing because it was just such a mess.
Yes.
And you can see where the good movie is. Yeah. It's just not on the screen I was watching, which is sad for all of us.
Yeah.
So join us next week, Cheesemeisters, when we watch Okay, we found a reason, because, and it's not because someone said to me, "Please find a reason to watch this movie," but they somebody did say that to me. Teresa said that to me, and I said, "I'm sure we'll find a reason." And then like 3 days later, we watched Euphoria, and Brandon was going to, or Andrea was going to go undercover to expose the inner workings of the uh, drug and rave scene of Los Angeles. And I thought, what's the best movie about someone going undercover to expose drug trafficking in Los Angeles? And there's only one answer. 6'5", 6'9" with the afro, Fletch. So we're watching Fletch next week, and am I right that you have not seen it?
You are correct.
Fletch is so fucking funny. Like, I don't want to oversell it, but Fletch is a top fiver. It's really funny.
I'm
So
excited.
yeah, and it's another endlessly quotable movie.
Oh, great.
So yeah, it's so quotable. I quote Fletch constantly. So I can't wait. Watching Fletch is going to be a lot better than watching Pearl Harbor.
Oh my god.
Alrighty. So until then, Cheesemeisters.
Cheers.
Cheers.